The predictable revenue model that the SDR role is built on over the last few decades has come apart at the seams. If you follow any sales content on LinkedIn, you've probably seen some version of the SDR is dead. Here's a few numbers to consider. There's been a 500% increase in the amount of outbound required to get an opportunity in the pipeline over the past 5 years. Deal cycles are 32% longer. Less than 50% of SDR teams hit quota in Q1 2024. It's clear that the way buyers buy and thus the way sellers need to sell has changed drastically over the past 5 years. And some may look at these numbers and think, AI and automation will solve this for us. But in reality, this actually contributes to the very increase in activity that makes it less effective. Let's start working smarter and not harder. What you call it doesn't really matter. What does matter is what the role does and what the outcomes are expected to be. The NDR isn't purely a marketing role or a sales role, it's a cross-functional GTN role. GTN? I thought it was GTM. Nope, it's GTN. Go to network. It's a modern strategy that focuses on creating a network of people around your business. Think advisors, champions, influencers, and they become your wedge into the market. The NDR grows that network. They pull the market into your sphere of influence rather than pushing out and hunting. Where an SDR is focused on booking meetings at all costs, an NDR is playing the long game. What happens if your SDR stops making calls or sending emails? The entire system falls apart. SDRs are focused on transactional, short-term actions. One of the main issues with the way that most SDR functions operate is the short-term mindset and lack of compounding value. Only 3 to 10% of your buyers are in market at any given time. The other 90% likely won't be in a buying position for months or even years. At its core, an NDR's job is to identify the 10% and sell to them, all while pulling the other 90% into your company's sphere of influence. That way, when they are in market, you're top of mind. Of those 10%, only 3% are active buyers, although 7% do intend to change their processes. And the problem with most SDR teams is that they're treating their entire lead list as ready to buy. What matters is timing. A well-equipped NDR makes use of signals to narrow down that list as close to the 10% as possible, ensuring you don't waste activity on people who view outreach as a nuisance. Signals, however, are not a definitive indicator of buyer intent. So all outreach to potential customers has to be done with the intent of learning and helping, not selling. Here's a few examples of signals for each stage of the buying journey and what an outbound CTA might look like for that. If the buying state is unaware of the problem, they might engage with your socials for the first time, visit your website homepage, or maybe even visit your conference booth. Maybe an outbound CTA might be, here's a recent Gartner report if you'd like to learn about how this problem affects teams. Maybe the buying state is aware, but not looking to solve now. That might look like visiting your informative website pages, repeated social media engagement with your content, or maybe they started your product tour. An example outbound CTA might look like, here's a short video that can help you determine if this problem affects your organization. Maybe the buying state is that they know the problem needs to be solved, but it's a low priority. That might look like visiting your pricing page, completing a product tour, attending a webinar, signing up for a free trial, or maybe asking questions in the community.
I didn't want to interrupt, it looked like you were videoing.
Yeah, thank you. An example of an outbound CTA might look like, would it be helpful if I sent over a quick video of a specific feature or workflow? Also happy to chat if you'd like. Maybe the buying state looks like they're evaluating solutions to solve the problem now. That might look like visiting the privacy policy, integrations, or technical documentation pages of your website, engaging with the product in a free trial, or asking specific questions to your website's chatbot. An example of an outbound CTA might look like, would it make sense to book a demo call? So here's a few ways that you can pull buyers into your sphere of influence. One is community engagement. That could look like a mentorship program, curated one-to-one connections, or even hosting a dinner series. You can also create content. 42% of B2B buyers research sellers by looking at their LinkedIn profile. And creating content establishes both personal and brand authority. And don't forget to engage thoughtfully with prospects on LinkedIn. Which brings us to number 3. Connect authentically. Maybe your company doesn't have a community, or maybe your buyers aren't on LinkedIn. There's often other industry communities or groups that your buyers are hanging out in. According to LinkedIn, deep sellers spend 50% of their time building relationships and connections, compared to the 9% of time spent by shallow sellers. And deep sellers are 30% more likely to hit quota than shallow sellers. So what now? If you're an SDR, share this video with your manager to see if it inspires any new ideas for your team. Or you can share the actual playbook if that's more helpful, linked below. Then maybe just take 10% of your time to start trying out the new tactics here. And be sure to start getting to know your marketing, community, and partnerships teams. You can start building bridges now. If you're a sales leader, take the advice here and use it as inspiration to build from. Maybe you could take one of your SDRs and have them experiment as an NDR for 1 quarter. You've got to experiment, iterate, and learn. If you're an early stage founder, consider an NDR as one of your first sales hires. An NDR will be able to impact growth more holistically than a traditional seller. They'll focus on long-term growth while also impacting short-term sales. And if you're ready to activate your network today, be sure to check out Commsor.